One. Hey, this is Mark Brody with Brohawk Solutions, and this is a new episode of Coffee Talk with Brohawk. And I am here today with the master, Rob Dwyer. I look to his next in queue as the way to actually do a podcast, and it's so much fun. And I was a guest on yours previously, and Rob, welcome today. You're with Happitu.
Yeah, I am. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
it's great to be on and Rock Chalk national champions.
Rock Chalk. There we go. Yeah. So Rob and I are both KU alum. We were there at the same time in different classes, and so we definitely have a kinship when it comes to Jayhawk basketball, and we'll get there with Jayhawk football this year. I'm confident of it. So
progress is being made. Progress is being made.
When you start to see recruits with at least 2 or 3 stars on their name line, yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Eventually we'll get a 4. Actually, I think we may have a 4 or so there. But
I will be happy with just respectability. That's all I ask for, respectability.
Hey, we beat Texas last year. That was good.
It was fun. It was fun.
Yes. So, Rob, let's introduce you to the folks viewing. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do with Happitu.
Sure. Happitu actually is a software division of Customer Direct, and Customer Direct is an outsourced services provider based here in St. Louis, Missouri. So we're a family-owned business. We've been in business for pushing 25 years now. And so I cut my teeth in the contact center world, like a lot of people. I started as an agent, and then I moved into training, and I've done leadership development, leadership development really all over the world. And when I came to Customer Direct, I worked and led the training program and the quality program, and then Happitu is a software solution. It's really a couple of different solutions that we developed for the needs of not just contact centers, but certainly it's applicable to contact centers, but it can be applicable to a lot of different businesses. So one of the solutions is Happitu Guide, and Happitu Guide provides workflow and scripting and tools for agents to get them through those calls where maybe they're unfamiliar with what to do. It's great for agents who are new, or maybe for call types that are not common. And then we have Happitu Vision, which speech analytics, it's all the rage, but what we really strive to do is to present automated and actionable insights into those phone calls, with the idea of, and this is near and dear to my heart because I'm very much an advocate for coaching in contact centers, so the people that answer the phone. But what happens is a lot of time people spend all their time listening to calls and not coaching. And so with Happitu, what we strive for is to present you the information so that you understand what needs to be coached and what's happening on the call, so that you can just go do that instead of spending all your time listening to calls. So that's what we do. And we're not relegated to the contact center space. We've got some clients that they have nothing to do with contact centers, but they're businesses and they have people that answer the phone.
Yes. Yeah. And it's interesting because you'll see a lot of people that will have like large groups of or a large team that answers the phone or responds to email. And when you say, oh, it sounds like a contact center. Oh, no, we're not a contact center. It's
right.
Like, well, walks like a duck, talks like a duck. Might be a duck, just saying,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you've got even 3 people answering the phone, in a way, that's kind of a contact center, but they don't think of it that way, and that's fine. And so what we're trying to do is bring some of the technology that contact centers are using into
Hmm.
some of those businesses as well, because
Yes.
it's still incredibly useful for them.
And I would imagine, and obviously this isn't an infomercial for Happitu, but I'd be happy to talk about it, a little bit more, because I think I think the logic behind why the software even exists is kind of important. It's to make frontline agents or frontline representatives better at what they do on a daily basis, whether it's through coaching or assistance or guidance or whatever.
Mhm.
I just think that the logic behind that is so powerful. How many times do you go into a restaurant or a retail shop? Even during COVID, we don't have to think all the way past, pre-COVID, but
Yeah.
and you ask somebody a question like, oh, I need to go find my manager. I don't know that answer. And to have the power right there in your hands on a phone or a laptop or, an iPad or something like that. Not that I'm plugging Apple or anything. I'm just saying. Uh, so yeah, I think the logic behind that is awesome. Um, Before we really get into a lot of it, what'd you think of that national championship game?
Oh, it was heart stopping and
Yeah.
then exhilarating in ways that I had not imagined that it could be. That actually the entire tournament, when the NCAA basketball tournament, I think, is so great because there
Hmm.
is an element of it's just a crapshoot, right? That's why
Yes.
everybody's brackets always get busted, and you
Yep.
see a team like St. Peter's do what they did, and
Hmm.
it's who's hot, who has good matchups,
Yep.
and it's survive in advance. And sometimes you survive ugly, like we did against Creighton,
Yes.
and it's it's just a lot of fun and I think it's a lot of fun even if it's maybe not your team that wins. It's so much sweeter when it's your team that wins.
Exactly.
But every year you see those teams like a St. Peter's that kind of make that run, and
Yep.
it's really cool to watch those young men who have worked so hard at their craft
Hmm.
to kind of get on the big stage and do something that I'm sure they'll remember for the rest of their lives, and the people that identify with that school, like, they're going to remember that. And then there's also the crushing heartbreak, right? And we've
Uh-huh.
felt that many times, and I think that's
Yep.
life is about emotion, right? And it's the ups and the downs. And I think that tournament really just kind of brings that emotion if you're a basketball fan in a very safe way. Like, don't worry, there's still next year.
Exactly. Or there's the transfer portal, and that's okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And that as we're talking about that, it's kind of like the emotions that you feel game to game, week to week during the NCAA tournament. It doesn't matter what division. It could be Division 1, Division 2, men's, women's. I mean, the excitement and the exhilaration and the emotional swings that fans go through. It's a lot like what we deal with at work. You know,
Yes.
we're going to have our good days and we're going to have our bad days, and I think it's all in how you deal with those emotional swings. um your team loses, are you going to have to go out and buy a new 50-inch TV, because you went Billy Knight or Bobby Knight on them, you know?
Right. Right. Well, and I
um
think there's a lot we can learn too, just about resiliency and
mhm.
pushing forward when the chips are down, right? I mean,
Yes.
you're down 15 points at halftime, which in college basketball, like, that's most teams are going to lose that game. You're down
Yes.
15 points at halftime against a good team, right?
Yep.
And
And
to,
North
to be able
Carolina
to,
was definitely a good team.
yeah. And so to be able to come back out and say, you know what, this is not over.
Mhm.
We're starting fresh, and we're going to chip away, and we're going to get things back to even, and then take a lead. There's a lot to be said, and whether that's life lessons, how you deal with things at work, are you in sales, whatever you do, right? Being able to look at that and say, wow, whew, man, I had a bad morning, right? Things didn't go right for me this morning. Like my coffee maker is broken, and there's a leak in my ceiling, and my kid is sick, and like things just went badly this morning, and my first meeting, right, just didn't go well. Is that how you're going to end the day, or the post lunch? Are you just going to let all of that affect you, or are you going to say after lunch, you know what, I'm going to make the rest of the day awesome?
Yes.
And it's hard to do. It takes a certain mindset to do that, but I think those are things that we can take away from the basketball games that are just supposed to be fun and entertaining. Like, you can learn a lot from it.
Well, and that's where coaching comes in, and is such a critical part of the game of basketball. And then also translated into what we do in contact centers. If the coaching isn't there, the folks on the front line, it's just like, go forth and do great things, and we'll just hope for the best.
Mhm.
Without providing them the guidance and not necessarily the structure, but the guidance and the feedback, and allowing them to make the mistakes, so that they know how to correct or self-correct the next time, I think is so important. Um,
Absolutely.
you know. Now, you didn't go to school to work in contact centers, did you?
Not at all. No. You know what? When I so when I was very young, I thought I wanted to be an aerospace engineer. So I grew up in Wichita, and for those that are familiar with Wichita, Kansas, it's labeled or dubbed the airplane capital of the world. At one time, we had four of the largest airplane manufacturers in
Mhm.
the United States, all in Wichita. So there's a lot of people in the aerospace industry there.
Yeah.
And I was pretty good at math. I liked airplanes, and certainly I was immersed in that because a lot of people were in that business. And then when I was a senior in high school, I took calculus at a JUCO,
Okay.
and along with some other classes. So I had those kind of knocked out my freshman year when I got to KU, but I thought I was being sly,
Uh-huh.
and I thought I would just take Calc 1 again, and that would make Calc 2 kind of an easy transition. It would be easy credit hours,
Yeah.
and then I got the non-calculator section of calculus, which I didn't know that existed. And long story short, I did not do well in that class. And I thought, maybe I don't want to do math anymore. And so I got out of math. And the only math I took while I was in college after that was statistics, because I do love statistics, and
Yep.
some really cool stuff with that. But I went to school for computer science, and I actually got into the mortgage business right out of school.
Okay.
This was early 2000s. And I spent nearly a decade in the mortgage business. And then 2008 happened.
Yeah.
And I worked for Wachovia, which was a huge mortgage lender and bank.
Mhm.
And I started handing out pink slips, and then I got my own. And I
Yep.
decided it was time for a career change. And it just so happens that not long after that, my wife got a job in St. Louis, and so we moved to St. Louis. And I was just looking for something that had insurance, because her role was a contractor gig, and so it
Yeah.
didn't come with insurance. And I wanted insurance for the kids. And I ended up in a contact center just as an agent. And I worked from home, and I was like, this isn't bad. And then I got an opportunity to train and, so on and so forth. And I realized that it could be a career. I wasn't looking at it that way.
Mhm.
When I got into it, it was just a job. It was, it wasn't even a 9 to 5 because I started nights. And
Oh my gosh.
it's just like, this is what I need right now.
Yep.
And then it's turned into now, more than a decade that I've spent in this business, and I really like it. It's a really great industry.
It is, and it's one that gives back to you as much as you want to put into it.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
you know, um, not like my golf game that I put a lot into it and it could care less about me. But that's a whole other topic for a whole other episode. Um, it's interesting because you've been in the industry for over a decade, over 10 years. But this wasn't something that you naturally gravitated towards right out of school. And so I know you do the Next in Q podcast. I'm sure you've talked to a lot of people that have a wild journey getting to where they've been in a contact center. What are some of the more interesting journeys? You don't have to name names or anything like that, but some of the more interesting journeys that you've talked to people about, and how they've gotten to where they are today in a contact center.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely one of these businesses that it seems very rare that people um, they get into it on purpose. It
Hmm.
seems 90% of the time it's on accident. I talked to a guy I used to work with years ago. He got into the business a couple of decades ago because he hurt his back doing construction. That's what he was doing. He was doing construction in New York, and he hurt his back, and he needed to be off his feet for a
Uh-huh.
while he healed, and that's how he got into the contact center business. I've talked to people that they interned in college, and they were into like analytics, and so maybe they ended up in workforce doing some analytics, right?
Yes.
There's the thing about the contact center world is that it encompasses so many different things. And a lot of
Hmm.
people start as agents. You don't have to start as an agent, but even if you do, you can get into IT, right? You can get
Yes.
into facilities, you can get into marketing, you can get into analytics. Like, there are so many different facets of
Yep.
running a contact center. And if it's an in-sourced contact center, you might start in the contact center with a business, and you could be vice president or CEO of a company because you learn about the customers and what they need and how the business works. And so there's a lot of upward mobility in a contact center environment that I
Mhm.
don't think you see in a lot of other businesses.
And there's no um I think the contact center industry is one of the most diverse industries. There's no glass ceilings, you
No.
know. Um, and diversity is one of the things that I think really makes the industry as great as it is. That coupled with everything that you just discussed, that you get in and you can go anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's a great way of looking at it. And I know when I started in the industry, it was like, all right, what are you going to do? I'm going to go forth and do great things. And 30 years later, 32 years later, I'm still in the industry, and it's something that just is infectious, and it sucks you in. um you know so um so over the last, I would say, 5 to 7 years, maybe a little bit longer than that, customer experience has become a big buzzword out here.
It
And
has.
there's a lot of folks that do CX very well, have very strong CX programs. And then there's others out there that are just, it's a buzzword, you know. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
what are what does having a good CX program or, mean to you?
Well, I think the most important thing to understand about CX or customer experience is that it involves so many different things, right? It's not
Mhm.
just your contact center, right? It depends on what your business is. If you sell a product, part of it's about the product and the sales process and how easy it is to get that product and or return that product. If you sell a service, it's about that experience. A
Mm.
lot of people think about CX in the contact center environment, and that is absolutely a part of it, because no matter what your business is, customers will have questions, they'll have concerns. Nothing's perfect, right?
Yeah.
So there will be problems along the road. You want to minimize that as part of your CX program, because you want things to be as easy and useful as possible for your customers.
Yeah.
But along that journey, there will inevitably be some bumps. And the contact center then is often where those things hopefully get resolved.
Hmm.
But a lot of what it's about is just being friendly to your customer. And friendly, I don't mean just the person talking to them, but like the systems that you have in place are easy to use. I will tell you just a quick story about a local utility.
Yeah.
I won't name names, but if you want to look, I think I called them out on LinkedIn recently. Like, if you call them, their IVR system presents you with a 3-digit code that you then have to enter. Like, it gives you a 3-digit code and then you have to type it in. I have no idea why. And then they'll give you an approximate wait time, which is, that's a thing that you can do with telephony systems, but it's never even close.
Yeah.
And there's no offer for a callback or anything like that. So you can have a virtual queue. And that experience, and this is to sign up for services for this utility. Like, if you think about that experience and how frustrating and confusing that is, like,
Uh-huh.
why can't I just talk to someone?
Yes.
And the reason that experience happens is because their online experience, if it runs into an error, it just says, well, sorry, you're going to have to call us. It's not going to tell you
Oh
why
my
it ran
gosh.
into a problem, right? So a big thing with CX is like, okay, we need to have all these channels, and you need to have digital channels and digital adoption and chat and whatever. It depends. If you do those things and you do them well, that's
Uh-huh.
great. Offer people choices so that they can choose the channel that they want. But I think what a lot of businesses have been doing when they think digital adoption is digital adoption at the expense of voice. And voice is that place where people go when they have a real problem and they need someone to help them. They don't
Yes.
want to bot. They probably don't want to chat you.
Mhm.
They want to talk to someone. And that's the piece that I think a lot of companies are like, they in the business, we call it deflection,
Yes.
right? Reduce the number of phone calls that are coming in. And that's a valid strategy if you've got good digital channels, but you can't just like leave people hanging in the wind when it comes to voice. I mean, you've got to make sure that voice channel is properly staffed and that your people are properly trained and that they have the tools to actually help your customers.
I I love it. I love it. And that's a great story because, that's CX not being done well, not to point out the elephant in the room. Um,
Right.
but it that's not a very good experience. And if I wanted to put in a number in order to get into the queue, I'd go to my local deli. as an example. I mean, and I can get my turkey and my roast beef and all that other fun stuff when it's my turn. But to take a number and then not even know where you are in queue, how long it's going to be, anything like that, not even a ballpark. So what you can get away from the phone to do or not do, and then that results in those callbacks coming and going unanswered because the person's not there, and then it increases that level of frustration.
Mhm.
I think that's a great call out. In when you and I have talked about this, when I started in the industry, um, IVRs were going to take over the world, and everything was going to be agentless, and over the years, the the companies that understood the power of the IVR and what an IVR could do versus couldn't do are those top end organizations today. Um,
Mhm.
and I just think that was a great example. So if someone's looking to partner um, with a CX, like a SaaS platform, and everybody thinks, oh, you know what, I could go ahead and just let technology do everything for me, and I'm doing CX. What advice would you give to someone that's looking for a SaaS platform, and I'm going to use the word help them become better at CX?
Yeah. So, again, right? CX is this really broad term. And so I think there are so many different options out there, and there are lots of great products, quite
Yep.
honestly, out there. What you have to do is identify, number one, what your goals are. Like, what gaps are you really trying to fill
Hmm.
in your own customer experience, and what tools will help you achieve that and do so in a way that's cost effective. Like, at the end of the day, if money wasn't an issue, like, you could go out and you could get like the Cadillac of platforms, right? And there are some players out there that would probably say, hey, we're the Cadillac of platforms.
Yep.
But that may not make sense for your business, right? It may
Hmm.
be that you can't afford something like that because your business margins don't allow you to do that. Your revenue doesn't allow you to do that. But also, it may just not make sense because it may have all these bells and whistles that you don't need and you're never going to use.
Yes.
So I think identifying, okay, what goals am I trying to achieve, and what is going to best help me achieve those goals in a way that's cost effective is important.
Mhm.
And then two, right, what's the support system look like? Am I going to be able to get help when I need to get help? Do I and look, I'm not down on outsourcing. I work at an outsourced contact center, but if I gotta plan my call because I need to talk to someone in India and they're not working US hours, that can be a challenge, right?
Mhm.
And I've talked to a lot of people that say, hey, we like working with you guys because you're quote unquote local. But there is something to be said for that, and it's not for everyone, right? You may
Mhm.
find that, hey, I need to really slim down on the cost, and so I am going to use something outsourced because I'm a global organization. That works
Yeah.
great for global organizations. It may not work great if you're a mom and pop business that only has a handful of employees and is
Mhm.
only open for a certain number of hours every day.
Are there things and you're right. I mean, the larger organizations, they can, big enterprise organizations, they can pick wherever in the world they want to place agents at, and that's awesome. But your small to mid-sized companies that may be 5, 10 years old, they have a really great product, but they don't understand the complexities of CX. They don't understand the complexities of contact center. I'm not just talking voice. I mean, chat, email, text, social, carrier pigeons. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, and they're the ones that those are the types of companies that I think sometimes can really benefit from partnering with somebody that does have expertise. It's like, if you have a leak in your house, you're not gonna call an electrician, you're gonna call a plumber. And that's where the having that, knowing where to look for those expertise, knowing where to look for the expertise that you need for your business is important, I think. And then also the knowing how you can prepare for that partnership, for that relationship. What are some things that people really need to look introspectively at before they can start looking outward? What are some things that you think are important?
Yeah. So before I answer that, just to piggyback on what you said, I think one of the other things, and particularly if you're a contact center and you're looking for a provider of anything, if you work with people that understand contact center business, it's so much easier than if you're working with people that are just software people. Because there are companies out there that have some interesting products, right?
Yep.
They didn't come from a contact center and they don't understand the actual goals. They're like, oh, hey, this is really cool. We can do these things and it's awesome. And let me throw glitter. At the end of the day, right, a contact center has very specific needs and goals that they're trying to accomplish. And when you understand, right, what the pain points are for a contact center and how we can solve those, that makes a big difference than, oh, here's our solution, it's wonderful, and don't you want it? Because that happens sometimes.
It does.
As far as, what do I need as a contact center or business to look at with my organization before I start going out and looking for solutions? I think part of it is understanding where we are from a business maturity standpoint and what other technologies that we're currently using that we may need to interface with. So everybody's different, right? And they're using different things, and there's nothing wrong necessarily with any of the things that they're using, but there's a different level of technology maturity that different businesses have, a lot of times based on scale, but not always based on scale. And I think just understanding kind of where you are, right? Where's your telephony platform today? Are you using on-prem or are you using a cloud-based system?
There you go.
How many channels are you using, right? Are you voice only? Fine. Are you voice and chat? Are you voice chat and email? Are you dealing with social? Are you dealing with like WhatsApp? Like all of those things kind of filter into understanding what products and what other services are going to best serve your business needs. And if you don't have a good grasp of your tech ecosystem, then that's going to make things really challenging when you're evaluating other solutions.
Yeah, and I would just throw one additional item on there, and that's your knowledge management system.
Yeah.
If you don't have things well documented, how can you expect a provider to be able to support you and your brand the way that you expect it to be supported?
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because, working as a outsource provider, one of the things that we talk with a lot of clients on the services side, right? They want someone to answer the phones or answer the emails or what have you.
Yeah.
One of the things that we talk about with them is, what type of phone calls do you receive? What do people call about, right? What's your volume? When do people call about specific things? And a lot of times they don't know. And so that's a process when we're working with a partner on that side of trying to understand, and we've got some tools to do that. But that's also part of what Happitu Vision now does for clients, because we recognize that a lot of times you just don't know what your processes are. You don't know why people call. And so it's a way to identify some of those things so that you can understand, okay, what needs to be documented? Because sometimes you'll talk to people and you say, well, what do people mostly call about? And they say, oh, well, we get a ton of phone calls for X. Like, if you actually listen to their phone calls, it's like maybe 1 out of 20 is for X, but 17 out of 20 are actually for Y. And they're like, oh, well, I didn't realize I got so many calls for that. Yeah, well, definitely. You do, right? And so part of that too is, when you work with a partner that understands that those things happen, and it's right, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not like you're doing something wrong. It's very common that you don't actually know what your volume looks like, what people are calling about. And understanding that can change a lot of your business, how you respond to things, what you need to have documented. Are you missing a process because people are calling about this? Are you having really incredibly long handle times because a lot of people call about X and it's really hard to deal with because you don't have it well documented somewhere?
Yes.
Just a lot of things that you can solve with your business by understanding why people call.
Get into the root cause analysis of why the volume exists, and spend some time and effort. And sometimes it's hard for companies to do that introspectively. They need to hire somebody to come in and take a look at it for them. Not necessarily for them, but with them. Hey, here's what we're finding. What are some of the process inhibitors that are occurring that would cause somebody to, basically, what's that customer effort look like
Right.
when it comes to getting a problem solved, getting to resolution? That's awesome. Hey, I know we're getting towards the end of time, and I wanted to make sure that we had time for the speed round today. Are you ready? Are you ready?
I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna. I don't think it matters, does it? Even if I'm not
it really
ready,
doesn't. No, it's gonna happen.
Okay.
So, hey, what fact about Rob would people be surprised to learn about you?
By looking at me right now, I think a lot of people would be surprised to know that I was a college baseball umpire, eventually college, but I was a baseball umpire for about 2 decades. So big fan of baseball. Even called some KU games.
Nice.
Yeah. So when I lived in Lawrence in the Kansas City area, and even after I moved here to St. Louis, I did a lot of baseball, but the beard is a post baseball umpire thing. They don't.
You
frown.
Look kind of like a pitcher now. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Pitcher with a bad arm.
When I get out to the St. Louis area, we'll have to catch a Cardinals game together.
I love it. I just actually took my son and his girlfriend to the Royals Cardinals game, the first game of the series, and Pujols hit his first home run as a returning member of the Cardinals. I grew up a Royals fan, but I've been here and I love watching the Cardinals. It's kind of a win-win, lose-lose situation. Like either way, it's going to be fun, but I have gear for both. It's a weird thing.
My wife, I turned her into a Red Sox fan because she didn't have a team before, and then Benintendi got traded to the Royals. So she works for a company based out of Kansas City. So now she had to get a Benintendi jersey because he was on the Red Sox before. I'm like, all right, I get it.
Good for her, because being a Red Sox, I mean, we've had this conversation before. Like, Fenway is great. The Red Sox, I can't be a fan.
Yeah. always be a fan. We accept all. And so, what is your ideal off the grid location?
You know what? I am a blue water and drinks with little umbrellas in them kind of guy. If I'm going to go
Nice.
off the grid, I want some sand and some sunshine and drinks with umbrellas.
Excellent.
Probably somewhere in the Caribbean, but that's me.
I like it. I like it. And of course, no cell service.
No cell service.
No cell service. That's awesome. So being a Jayhawk fan, is KU going back to back next year in basketball?
Oh, man. So I mentioned, right, how much of a crapshoot it is.
Yeah.
And my heart wants to say yes. My head says it's highly unlikely. Then it really doesn't matter how good the team is. The team could be better next year.
Yep.
And I still don't think that it will happen. But when it does, I'll be super excited about it.
Yes, exactly. I think a lot of people will.
Yeah.
So, Rob, it's been great talking to you. I look forward to doing a lot more networking and having conversations with you in the future. And if someone watching this video podcast, whatever people call these, vlog or whatever, if they want to talk to you and find out a little bit more about what you do and what Happitu does and what Customer Direct does, how can they get in contact with you?
I mean, the best place is LinkedIn. So I'm on LinkedIn pretty regularly. So if you just want to talk to me directly, you can go to LinkedIn. I mean, if you just want to check out Happitu, you can just visit our website, happitu.com. Okay. You can also check out on the blog, the podcast Next in Queue. You can watch episodes there. So we are 30 episodes plus strong, including an episode with you. And yes. The podcast is really just all about people in the CX and contact center industries. And there's a huge variety. So it's not just contact center people. You will learn a lot about a lot of different people doing different things. And I think it's fun. We just get to know them. It's not, it's a different kind of podcast. And I love it because it's fun. But you can also check out customerdirect.com. So if you're looking for like contact center outsourcing services, we do more than just answer phones. If you've got some mail pieces or applications that need to be reviewed, we do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, excellent. Well, as you mentioned, I've been a guest on your Next in Queue podcast, and you do an amazing job with that. Over there, you've been doing it for a while. I know you have a ton of subscribers, and hopefully, if folks like the content that you and I put together today, they'll want to subscribe to Coffee Talk with Brohawk in the future as well. And
they absolutely should.
And Rob, one of these times we're going to have to go ahead and do a live event. That would be really cool.
I am excited for it, and yes. Certainly. While Texas, where you are, isn't off the grid, there are beaches not too far away, and I think I could probably get a drink with a little umbrella in it if we go to the right spot.
I know a few of those places myself, so
if nothing else, we can just get on an inflatable raft and float down a river and just have a cooler of beer behind us. And
that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Hey, Rob, it was a pleasure having you on. Thank you very much. Again, if you want to learn more about Rob and the work that he does and the companies that he works for, check him out on LinkedIn. Rob's probably one of the most personable folks that I've met in the industry. And even if you just want to bounce some things off of him, I mean, he's a great resource. And Rob, again, thank you very much. I appreciate your time today.
Oh, thank you, Mark. It's been great.
All right. Thank you very much.